Welcome all. In today's session, we will see how to create correlation rule in Yasas DevX suite. The correlation rule is used to link the endpoint accounts or the target application accounts of the user to user's identity in SailPoint using a certain attribute. So in today's use case, suppose say there is an application where user has an attribute which can hold multiple emails for the user. The application allows to store multiple emails for that user. And when we integrate the application with the SailPoint, we are trying to correlate that user's account, link that user's account with the user's identity in SailPoint. So typically the identities are created from an HR application which stores the email for that user. So in today's use case, we will try to retrieve the first email from the multiple emails in the source attribute and then link it with the identities email. So that will be our use case, and the data elements which are needed to support this use case are the data element to hold the source email, the application's accounts email attribute, which will store multiple emails in a list attribute. And we will also calculate the size of that email list to validate if the user is having any emails associated with the account in the source application. And then we will retrieve the first email from that source email list. And in the flow logic, the flow blocks which are needed is the if block, where we will check for users email, whether the user has any emails, and also based on the size of the email list. So we will determine if the user has any emails. The user has emails, and we will retrieve the first email from that list. So that will be the flow for this use case. And there is already a default rule which is provided in DevX suite. So the default rule will have a check on the account, whether we got the user's account. And then we also have the return statement which will return the map object which is holding um, the the correlation for the user's account and the identity. Let's navigate to rules, cloud rules, and then new correlation rules. Provide a rule name. So let me create with the month. And once the rule name has been validated, the validation is to check if a rule is already existing with the same name. So once that has been passed, let's move on to the data elements. Data elements will be used in the flow of the code. For example, in the validations and in other logic blocks in the code. So first I would like to create user emails data element, which will store the source email attribute value. This I will create it as a list data type because we are retrieving the value of a multi-valued attribute from the source. Select source attributes, select source, and then select the email attribute. And the next data element which I'm going to create is user email size, which I will use in the validation. This will be a number, and this is on the added data element user emails which we have just created. So it will check for the size of this list, and the operation which I choose is the list size and add the data element. And the final data element which I would like to create is a first email for the user. What this will do is this will retrieve the first email from the user emails data element which we have already created, which stores the list of email addresses. So for the first email, I would like to use the getListItem function with an index of 0, which will get me the first email address for that user. Once we have all the data elements, save and close, which will add the data elements into the code. We can verify in the rule preview on the right hand side. All the data elements are here. And next tab is the flow tab, where we will add the flow. We can add any number of logic blocks. Here I would like to add an if block where I will check for existence of the emails, whether the user has any emails at all. And I would also like to check for the size of the emails, which is user email size greater than 0. After these two validations, what I would like to do in the if block is to retrieve the first email from the list of emails. So we already have the data element user first email where we are retrieving the first email. Once we have that, the last step is to correlate with the sale point identity attribute email. So select the email attribute, the identity attribute, and then select which value we want to correlate, which is our user first email. Check the rule preview. We have the return statements added into the code. Once we have the complete code, we can save the code, save this rule, and this rule can be downloaded as an XML file or a JSON file. So for this demo purposes, I will download the rule as an XML file. Rule has been downloaded. And we have the rule validator, which will validate the generated rule. So select the XML and click validate. As you can see, there are no errors found, 0 errors. We can also download the result as a text file. There are two more steps which can be done. This is the manual download, but if we want to add the rule to the source, once the rule has been added to SailPoint tenant, we can retrieve the rule ID using the API. So to do these two steps, we would need to configure the SailPoint tenant credentials in the configuration here. So once that is configured, you can select the tenant credentials and then retrieve the rule ID for the rule that has been added to the SailPoint. And once we get the rule ID, we can associate the rule with a source in this form. And we also have the send to SailPoint, which will get all this information and associate the rule with the source in the SailPoint. Thank you for watching.